What's up, Whisper Nation? It's Tuesday, so you know what that means. It's waiver wire time. It's time to get those claims in, time to spend that fob money on a guy that you could help get, or you could get, and he could help you win your league or win your next week at least, and that's what we're doing here. We're playing a weekly game, so let's talk about some running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends you can grab on the waiver right here on the Fantasy Whispers.
Right here.
That's right, Big Travie. Welcome into the Tuesday. I almost said Wednesday waiver wire because it was like WWW. But it's the Tuesday waiver wire show with your boys over here on the Fantasy Whispers. I am the host for this show. Surprising enough, I can't believe.
I don't know how
still
we
can't believe
this.
I don't either, but it happened. So I am your host for this show only. So I get to do what I want. As the host, you can find me on Twitter at Johnny_Game Time. You can find my co-host on this show, normally the normal host, a Big Travie on Twitter at Big Travie TFW. What is going on, Travis? Week 3 has already been slammed shut in the books. We're about to get on to week 4. We got some awesome guys that we're going to talk about here. A couple running backs, some wide receivers you're definitely going to want to pick up, some tight ends, and maybe some streamable quarterbacks if you need that kind of thing. But first, Travis, how are you feeling, man? How are you feeling? We're about to have a quarter of the season already in the books almost. Like, that's wild. We spent so much time building up, and then it feels like the season just snaps by.
Yeah, I really feel like we're going to be able to close the book, not on just week 4, once we do, but also on like certain takes. We're going to know that this team's basically given up on this player and this role, or they are, solidifying that player in that role. And so what we're starting to see is more data points, of course. We're starting to see some more things throw themselves to us. And I just think it's in a really exciting time to get a month into the season. Then the weather will start to change. Then we're going to see some teams develop new habits, and it's just a fun time. We've got an even longer season this year with the 17-game season, so we've got teams managing that in their own way. That'll be an interesting place to be as well. And look, we've told you all year long, we told you in the offseason that the draft was only one part of this, that trades and waiver wires were the other part. That you need to get going on here. And so we're going to help you out with this waiver wire column, which will be up on the site later today. Actually, within the next hour or so, I'll get that article up on the site. But here's a little preview into the article, a few players you can pick up right now, and just, who would you drop? Who would you, add? All those kind of good things. I love to say what's up.
Yeah, we'll get into all of that in just a second. Want to say what's up to Mr. Miyagi. Oh, God help us all. Johnny's the host. Yeah. We'll get through it though. We'll get through it.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Gus Ramos coming out 3-0, baby. Let's go.
Yeah,
that's what it's about.
He survived that CeeDee Lamb onslaught last night. The Dallas offense kind of slowed down after they got that lead. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I just want to mention one more time, if you are new to our channel, please hit that subscribe, hit that bell so you get notified anytime that we go live. You never know what is going to happen on our live shows. Last night, we were just, having our normal Monday night, show, watching the game, reviewing the show, breaking down something, and all of a sudden, it just went off. We had a bunch of people jump on our stream. It was a great time. A bunch of new subs, so appreciate all of them for stopping by. Once again, if you're new to our channel, hit that subscribe. We drop fantasy football content daily to help you win your league and build up that awesome fantasy football community in Whisper Nation. But you know what we need to build up, Travis? Those rosters, the depth. Right. So let's jump into some of these guys. I do want to remind you what our threshold is. Players that are rostered under 50%. We will dive into those guys. Some guys will quickly just throw out there. Make sure you check your waiver wire. These guys are going to be the highest priority. But we're not going to dive too much into them because we did last week. Told you to go pick them up last week. So if they're still available on your waiver wire, make sure you put these at a higher priority. That is running back Michael Carter from the New York Jets. Mike Gesicki getting on the board. Do you believe it? Maybe. I think he's the talent at the tight end position that we need. We'll see if that role keeps expanding. You want to touch on that, Travis?
Yeah, I mean, just quickly that Mike Casecki with Brissett in the lineup seems to be more, apt to go get targets, to get involved in the offense. It's more of a, conservative dink and dunk style offense, which could benefit Gesicki if they get him out in space. So I really wanted to write about him this week, but he's rostered in too many leagues. You guys are smart out there.
Yeah, and we do know Jacoby does like using his tight ends, so that I do expect to continue for the short term. We'll see what Tua does when he gets back. Kirk Cousins, 68% quarterback. That'd be the number one to pick up over there. Still can't believe how well he has started off this season, just destroying these matchups. So continue to roll in the fire with him. Cole Beasley, 66%. The fantasy glitch, Cordarrelle Patterson, 65%. One of my favorite pickups. Sony Michel, 63%. Got a lot of the carries there. Henderson, expect to miss a little bit more time. Zack Moss, having a big day, 62% available, or roster on 62% of leagues. Make sure you pick him up if you need a running back. Christian Kirk, 58%, and Derek Carr, 52%. You're staying in the flames with Derek Carr. He's looking good as well. All right, Travis, those are all the players that, most leagues have taken up. So we don't want to dive too much more on those guys. Let's dive into this first running back. We got him on the thumbnail of this video. So if you checked it out, appreciate you. Make sure you hit this, give us a like on your way in. Give that thumbs up. All right.
And I just wanted to let everybody know in the chat really quick, Johnny, if you guys are asking questions, we're going to get to those. Right now, we just want to get through these top waiver ads, and then I'll get to your questions. And a lot of those could be answered right here as we go through the article and some of the guys that are going to be in it.
Yep. All right. So this first running back that you wrote about, Chuba Hubbard. No surprise here. Carolina Panthers running back after CMC going down with the hamstring strain out multiple weeks, not going on the IR though. The short-term IR, they're going
at least not yet.
Yeah, at least not yet, just like last year. But he is rostered only 41% of sleeper leagues. Travis, you want to break down Chuba and what you like so much about him and why you expect him to be at least a good RB2 fantasy option for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so by the time we get to Sunday, Christian McCaffrey will have missed 13 of his last 20 games. And so if you did not handcuff Christian McCaffrey, unfortunately, that is a bad situation for you. Maybe you'll be able to get the top priority and go get him this week. Otherwise, we're looking at Chuba Hubbard here going to one of your league mates, and that is a devastating thing in your league because on 55% of snaps, he got 14 touches, okay? He equated that to about 55 yards on 4.73 yards per carry. The most important thing here, Johnny, is the 5 targets that he got, which means that they're going to continue to try and run this offense through Chuba Hubbard the way that they have done with Christian McCaffrey. And so Chuba is a guy you need to add immediately as the top waiver priority. I don't think we're, breaking bread or really, reinventing the wheel here. Go get him. He's a running back that's going to run through the offense here, or the offense is going to run through him, so to say. And I think it's just, think about what we got out of Mike Davis last year. Consistent RB2 numbers. Chuba actually could be better than Mike Davis because he is younger. He's, maybe a little bit better of a running back prospect. And then you look at this offense improving from last year, potentially under Sam Darnold. So I think there's a lot of league winning capability here. And as I said, 13 of the last 20 games for CMC, probably even more than that as that goes forward. And if he gets, hamstrings aren't one to just go away. Sometimes they can linger. They can come back, pop back up. So for me, I think Chuba Hubbard's a no-brainer, number one top priority. I mean, even if you need wide receiver, I would consider grabbing Chuba Hubbard just because it takes it away from your league mates and an opportunity for them to get a running back in an RB-thirsty league.
Yeah, you could definitely flip him rather quickly, not only either to the CMC player or use it as a throw-in with another player to really upgrade your position there. I really like that. I do want to touch. Okay, so Christian McCaffrey. What are we doing with Christian McCaffrey? Are we holding him? Are we trying to trade him? Are we trying to acquire him? We did talk about how that injury does linger. Talk about how many games he's missed.
If you're 0-3, Johnny, and you're looking for some value back and you're really panicking because maybe 6 or only 4 teams get into your playoffs and you have CMC and you think you can get a boatload of value for him, go ahead and do that. I wouldn't mind that. If you don't, like if you have an IR, stash him in your IR. That's what you want to do. Look, we know that the minute CMC is on the field, he rolls out of bed with about 20 points in PPR.
Yeah, it's insane.
So we know
touchdown
that,
or not.
Yeah, we know that's what he does. The problem here is that hamstrings linger, and the problem is also that he's been more injury prone over the last couple, season and a half. So that's something that I am going to watch out for. We know they linger. I am a little bit scared here. Mr. Miyagi says McCaffrey not going on the IR worries me to spend a truckload of fab to get him. Look, I understand that. But we also have seen hamstrings linger on. Remember, Dalvin Cook a couple years ago just never got right from his hamstring. So this is something to monitor. Just because they didn't put him on IR, maybe they're just being very hopeful. Maybe this is a team that hopes it turns, but we don't know what's going to happen with that hamstring.
All right, let me ask you a couple of running backs. Would you drop for him? Okay.
The answer is yes.
Mark Ingram.
Absolutely.
Are you dropping Latavius Murray?
Yes.
Okay. Are you dropping Ronald Jones?
Yes.
Rondo Moore, last week's major.
This would depend on my roster construction. If I was in dire need of a flex more season long, I could consider it. But yeah, most likely I'm dropping Rondo Moore for Chuba Hubbard.
Okay. Taysom Williams.
Tyson Williams, yeah. Exactly.
Tyson Williams, excuse me. And last one, Elijah Mitchell. Would you drop Elijah? I don't know if I would. I
don't know if I would. And then Mr. Miyagi comes in with Sermon, who I think is also another good investment that you may not want to drop. I will say Sermon did not look great on Sunday night, except for the touchdown that he got in on. Other than that, he had a drop. He was stuffed at the line a couple times. He just didn't look like he was the greatest.
He looked slow.
Yeah, so
he looks slow.
I would consider dropping one of the San Fran backs. We've got Jeff Wilson coming back. Mitchell, obviously a little bit smaller, maybe even injury prone if that's going to be his career. And then Sermon.
Are you selling high on Sermon right now?
If you could get a value back for Sermon, I think that's a fine deal as well.
Yeah, I think so. All right, moving on to this next running back here. We have only rostered in 7% of sleeper leagues. Most people don't believe in him. I'm still on the border. Big Travie, give me the case for Peyton Barber. We saw him get, the bell cow work usage. We heard this 2 weeks ago. We still have no idea what is going on or the timetable with Josh Jacobs. So Peyton Barber comes in number 2 at the running back position on this article. Break it down for us, what you like, what you don't like. How much would you be considering going in on this kind of waiver wire pickup?
Much like when
struggle's real.
Much like when it's 2 a.m. and you tell your Uber driver, hey, can you hit that Taco Bell on the way home, please? And you convince him to do it, and then you're sitting there in that line. You kind of come out of your drunken funk, and you go, why am I here? How did we get here? That's where we're at with Peyton Barber. I have no idea why we're here, but folks, we're here. And this guy got 26 total touches, over 140 all-purpose yards, and scored on the ground last week. Look, as much as we don't want this to happen, Peyton Barber's in there. And then when they asked John Gruden after the game, he said, look, Peyton Barber doesn't miss pass blocking assignments. He doesn't do that, right? And because he doesn't do that, he doesn't come off the field. And so now he's out there in the role that we wanted really for Josh Jacobs. And not only that, but if you look at Peyton Barber getting more involved in the passing game than even we saw Josh Jacobs. 5 targets, 3 catches, 31 yards. That's a 10.3 yards per catch. Johnny, as much as I don't want to talk about it, this is Peyton Barber. He needs to be added in all formats pretty much because this is the RB thirst that happens in our leagues in fantasy football, and Peyton Barber's got to be talked about, and he's got to be added.
I know he feels like one of those guys though, that like you're going to pick him up and you're going to want to trust him based on this, and then the carpet's just going to get pulled right from under you.
Yeah.
But it could happen. I do agree with the thirst that happens at the running back position. I do think that because most people aren't buying in to this or to Peyton Barber, they might let him slide. You might be able to get him for a little bit cheaper on that waiver wire fob. On the budget there, and he could be a plug and play. It is interesting. This is so wild to me. Like, you pay Kenyon Drake all this money and talk him up all off season, and then the moment that you're able to use him, you don't. Like, you put in Peyton Barber still. Like, that's wild to me. Again, coaching rationality. You can't always assume that. So I definitely do think he's worth the pickup. I don't know if I would necessarily. I'm going to give you those same guys that I just asked if you would drop him for, and we'll see how far you go on for Peyton Barber. All right. So again, would you drop? We'll just start here at the top. Mark Ingram. Would you drop
Yep.
Mark Ingram for him? All right. Would you drop? And I believe I do second that. Latavius Murray.
Yes.
Tyson Williams.
Yep.
And Rondo Moore last week's. I don't
Again,
think I would do Rondo.
Again, it would be roster construction. My concern with Rondell Moore, and we could talk, on this extensively, is the snap percentage. And this team is going to continue to use Christian Kirk and Rondell Moore in tandem in the slot. Both guys very high slots percentages. And I think because of this percentage dipping down, and then Jacobs should come back eventually, right? Like the ankle, he's not going to be out forever. So that's why I think I would hang on to maybe Moore. But I think that there's a case to be made if you need RB.
Felton for Barber. Would you drop Felton for Barber? That's a good one.
Yes.
I would.
Yeah,
I would,
absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily barring that yet.
Yeah.
Especially it's more so game script on why they keep adding or having him carry So not buying into that one. I would do that. All right. Those are the two running backs we're going to talk. It's a little bit thin on the running back. Actually, sorry. We got one more. Sorry.
We'll just speak quickly on the third one, Johnny. Rhamondre Stevenson has just made the list because James White has the hip subflexion, and it's like he could be out forever in this year, or he could come back. We don't know. But the bottom line is Rhamondre Stevenson, underrated wide receiver out of the backfield here. So, or underrated receiver out of the backfield at the running back position. And Rhamondre, we know, is the big back. He can also be a goal line back. This is Damian Harris's team. Don't get me wrong. He's going to run the ball consistently, but we haven't seen Harris used in the passing game. And if White's out of this offense, they're going to want to use somebody in the passing game. Maybe it's J.J. Taylor. Maybe it's Brandon Bolden. Those two got some work last week, but not a lot. I still think it's Rhamondre. I think it'll be Rhamondre Stevenson once he gets out of the doghouse. So I think he's worth an ad if you're, just looking for a stash guy, and then kind of monitor his usage going forward.
I do think J.J. Taylor is an interesting kind of one in that same boat. They have used him and they do like him kind of in that James White. I did project that to be James White, and next year would be J.J. Taylor. It'll be interesting seeing what they do moving forward. Like you said, Harris has gotten a little bit more work than we thought, like more work than Sony got last year. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Difficult matchup this next week against Tampa Bay. Tom Brady coming back, so we'll see what ends up happening there. All right, we are going to jump over to the wide receivers. I just want to remind everyone who is tuning in right now, appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. If you give this video a like on the way in, greatly helps the algorithms on YouTube, on whatever platform you're on, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, really helps with that, helps get our brand and this channel out to more people to help more people. So we will get to your questions at the end of the show to get you all those. So stick around. We'll be going through all those in shortly. All right. Wide receivers, Travis. Got my guy, number one over here on the wide receiver, TP, Tim Patrick. The dude is just, he's not sexy. He isn't. He's not going to win. He's not going to win.
You gotta take shots at Tim Patrick, dude. I bet you his wife thinks he's sexy.
That's probably. I'm just saying from a fantasy perspective. People just keep overlooking. Oh, Jerry Jeudy's going to come back. Well, sure, he might come back, but now KJ Hamler is out for the season with torn ACL. So in steps Tim Patrick, who is already getting a bulk of the snaps already because of the injury to Jerry Jeudy, now looking like a more season-long opportunity and investment. So Tim Patrick, go pick him up on your waiver wire. You want to break it down for the people. He is rostered on only 36% of sleeper leagues. Like, this is a guy dating back to last year that has a handful of double-digit fantasy outings with terrible quarterbacks play last year. Now gets a steady guy in Teddy B. So, Big Trav, you want to break down a little bit more what you like and what you're seeing from Tim Patrick?
Yeah, with Cortland Sutton out last year in weeks 9 through 13, Patrick had 4 out of 5 games go for double-digit PPR fantasy points. If we look at this year, Johnny, he's been over 70% snap share in all 3 games. Okay, that included game 1 with your boy Jerry Jeudy in the lineup. 39 yards for Tim Patrick in that first game, but he scored. And then in the second game, only 37 yards on 74% snap share, but he scored. Then this week, they flipped scripts. They used Tim Patrick down the field, connections of 24, 27, and 31 yards for your boy as he got 98 yards on the day, catching all 5 of his targets for 98 yards and 14 PPR fantasy points. Johnny, this is a guy who has now posted the wide receiver 30 numbers in PPR, the wide receiver 24 in standard. And here's the kicker. He's only dropped 1, and I don't even think he dropped because he's not credited with a drop. So he's only missed on 1 of his targets this year. That is great for a guy you want to go get in your lineup right now. He's the top of my wide receiver ad because I really think what they showed last week is they're willing to use him in the deep threat role. We thought that was specifically going to be for Cortland Sutton. Well, then we saw KJ Hamler get injured. He'll be out for the year now. Jerry Jeudy with the high ankle. And you've got a situation where Patrick is going to be, used in this offense quite a bit. I would imagine his snap share goes from 76 last week closer to the 80 or 90 range this week because of the injuries at the position. And so Patrick, a journeyman, a 4-year veteran, we know that, that Teddy can sustain more than 1 wide receiver, and I think both he and Sutton in this offense that builds off the run and then does play action shots is going to be a nice add for you on your team if you need that wide receiver depth.
Couple of next 4 games, a little brutal. Next 4 games because Washington is just allowing everyone to score on them and giving up a ton of points.
But even you would say Baltimore and Pittsburgh are tough, but we've seen teams get at them. Even the Raiders got at them a couple times. Then you have the Raiders in there. I don't think that any of these matchups aren't winnable for Tim Patrick. I think the moment that Jeudy comes back, you'd have to downgrade Patrick a bit, but we've seen those high ankle sprains really linger, and I think you're going to get some good usage out of Patrick over the next month.
I agree. All right, we got the next wide. Oh, let me ask you a couple of wide receivers. Would you drop for Tim Patrick? Okay. Before we move on, we got KJ Osborne. A big dud from KJ Osborne. They used the tight end a lot more in this game. Would you drop KJ Osborne?
Yes.
Zach Pascal.
Yes. Pittman really coming on. I would have loved to write about Pittman as well, rostered in too many leagues, but he really becoming a target hog in that offense.
Pittman looking real good. Rondo Moore, would you drop Rondell?
I would.
Okay. And then last but not least, your boy Quez Cephas.
Quintez Cephas? Yeah, Cephas can go.
Okay. I figured, but yeah. All right. Next player we're going to talk about here, Emmanuel Sanders, Buffalo Bills, roster on 37% of sleeper leagues, got in the end zone twice yesterday. We talked about how explosive this offense was. It was only a matter of time before, Josh had another big day. And as a result, Sanders, who just seems to be this wide receiver that floats under the radar a lot of weeks, had some games. Do we expect this to continue moving forward? Is this that second option for Buffalo?
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing is he may not be the exact target second option, but he's definitely the big play threat outside of Diggs. And so what we've seen when the offense reaches its ceiling is a guy like Emmanuel Sanders steps forward. We've seen Dawson Knox come on, who we'll talk a little bit about later, or when we talk about tight end. But Emmanuel Sanders, after failing to crack 55 yards in his first 2, he then goes over that for 98 yards, caught 5 of 6, and he scored 2 touchdowns. He showed how much upside this offense can have in a game where, Josh Allen threw 43 times. Any given week, I think Sanders could be plugged into your flex if the matchup is right. And then check this out, Johnny. Houston, Kansas City, and Tennessee are the next 3 games for them. There should be shootouts in every 1 of those. So we in all 3 of those. So we definitely like Sanders going forward. I think he would have made it over Tim Patrick if I didn't see the clearer path to targets. We obviously have Cole Beasley and Knox to compete with targets, but I do like Sanders as the second highest waiver priority at the wide receiver position this week.
All right, Travis, we are going to get into this next wide receiver here. AJ Green getting a little bit of revival here in Arizona, getting over 100 yards. First time in a while that he had over 100 receiving yards. Is AJ Green someone we can trust? Or is this going to be in Arizona, this type of, whack-a-mole with these other wide receivers in Christian Kirk, Rondo Moore, and AJ Green, to where we're not really going to know who you should trust in that lineup as that secondary option for Arizona? Is that how it is? Or are you really believing in AJ Green moving forward?
I believe in AJ Green because of the fact that he's on the field all the time. So when we look at these other guys like Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore, they don't crack 75% of the snap share. They just don't get into that, right? They are used within the slot, so they're not in there in every single series. So they're going to go 2 wide receiver set. You look at the snap percentage for AJ Green, 80, 84, 79. This is a guy who's on the field quite a bit. And in that 79, which was his lowest of the season, goes 5 of 6 for 112 yards, Johnny. Had a healthy 22 yards per catch. He looked good. We talked about this after week 1. Is AJ Green dusted? Is he washed up? We're looking at it now. He's not letting that be the narrative right now. He came back out and got things done. He scored in week 2. He got over 100 yards in week 3. We talked about how Kyler Murray was in the offseason gassing up AJ Green, talking about how much he liked him and the connection was there. So I really think AJ Green is worth an ad. He's about the 3rd highest on my priority here with wide receivers. And I think he's definitely worth some allocation here as we try to watch this chemistry progress. And bottom line is, am I saying Rondale Moore was a hard drop, as we talked about. He was a hard decision to make as a drop. Is Christian Kirk a guy you want to roster? Yes, you want to continue to roster pieces of these Arizona Cardinals because of the offense actually reaching its ceiling with Cliff Kingsbury right now. But I think AJ Green's a fine ad right now this week, and let's kind of roll in the fire and see where the usage is at with him, and if it can continue with that high snap percentage.
All right. We are going to get a lot of people have been asking to him. I know we brought it up last night. He is reinstated to the NFL. Josh Gordon, your boy, Flash, coming back to the NFL. Kansas City Chiefs are reported to be signing him. He is rostered only 17% of sleeper leagues. He's the number 1 on sleeper right now as far as ads, because no one thought he was going to be coming back. But is this the same old story with Josh Gordon, or is he now someone we should really consider picking up, putting him on our bench? Will he have fantasy relevant weeks where we can actually trust him in our lineup?
Josh Gordon reminds me of like that distant cousin at the barbecue that keeps trying to ask you for money. He just keeps coming back, and you're like, you get tricked each time by him. Yeah. Oh, dude, I'll pay you back. Don't worry, dude. Yeah. I don't.
Here you go. Here's $200.
Yeah. Josh Gordon is getting his 10th shot in the NFL, which means it's our 10th chance to go to the waiver wire and pick up Josh Gordon. I think that Josh Gordon is worth an ad. I ranked him as such behind these other guys because I just think there's more substance to their ads. Josh Gordon will need to not only come in from time off in the NFL again, but he'll have to get acclimated with the offense again. He'll have to get chemistry built up with a new quarterback again. Now, luckily, the quarterback throwing him the ball is Patrick Mahomes. You should get plenty of opportunities. But again, we have not seen that third receiving option, really get going for Kansas City ever, even when they were really good. Right now, they are struggling because they don't have that third option. Teams are bracketing Tyreek Hill. They're coming after Kelsey, and they're saying, hey, beat us any other way. Now we're seeing that, they're going to go get desperate and get Josh Gordon here, who's desperate to make his career revive. Now, should he revive it? I think it would be a great story. I think he's worth an ad if you miss out on some of those other guys we talked about. But I wouldn't be getting way too excited here. It's not like when Antonio Brown came back and we got really excited he was going with Brady. This is a little bit different, a little bit more in between him and some production here.
Yeah, definitely. ML saying the distant cousin that keeps asking for money. Love it. All right, so last wide receiver we're going to talk about here. Once again, I want to say appreciate everyone who is tuning in right now. We will get to everyone's questions at the end of this show. Just got a couple more players to run through here for waiver wire important levels. That next player, wide receiver, Hunter Renfrow, the slot for Derek Carr, and the number 1, I still can't believe it, the number 1 passing offense right now in the NFL, the Las Vegas Raiders. Hunter Renfrow, only roster on 22% of sleeper leagues. People don't believe They don't believe in this offense. They think Darren Waller is the only option there. Let us know why we need to go out and get Hunter Renfrow.
This is mostly a PPR take, but I will say, right now we're sitting as the wide receiver 26 in PPR formats. That's because Hunter Renfrow has cleared 5 catches and 55 yards in every single game. He also hit pay dirt last Sunday. His 22 targets are tied for 11th in the NFL among wide receivers. So dad bod or not, Hunter Renfrow is getting it done for the Las Vegas Raiders right now. It'll be interesting to see how this role progresses as Henry Ruggs starts to get more involved. We've seen Henry Ruggs heat up over the last couple of weeks. If they continue to use Ruggs within that system the way that we know that they can, or that they should be able to, because he's looking really good now, then, Renfrow could dip and dive down below that, we'll call it the Mendoza line for you to add your guy here. I think that Renfrow, look, I'm trying not to write about Renfrow, but similar to Peyton Barber, we have to. The production is there, and you have to be able to get in there. So I would figure out how you can, avoid picking up Renfrow, but he's definitely worth an add if you're very desperate in a PPR format.
All right. Next set. All right. Real quick, rapid fire on those. Tell me who you wouldn't. How much do you just tell me who you wouldn't drop out of those wide receivers that I gave you that we just talked about, who you wouldn't drop for one of these guys? Would you drop would you pick up any of those guys for KJ Osborne? Would you drop KJ Osborne for all those guys?
Yeah, except for Renfrow.
Okay. What about Zach Pascal?
Yeah, I would drop Pascal for all those guys.
All right. Would you drop Ronald Jones for any of those guys? Give you a running back.
Yeah, if I need a wide receiver, I would drop Jones for all those guys.
All right. Sterling Shepard, who gets injured.
No, I'm going to hang on Shepard. Hopefully it's one of the man, Shepard was just having such a good year, man. This is a shame. That guy just keeps getting hurt.
And what about your boy, Robbie Anderson? Would you drop Robbie Anderson for any of these guys?
I would drop Robbie Anderson like a bad habit. Robbie Anderson needs to be dropped immediately, man.
I agree. All right. So we will just rapid fire these tight ends because they're not guys that you necessarily need to go out because they're going to be league winners. So rapid fire these tight ends. Dawson Knox, Dalton Schultz, and Tyler Conklin, who he was the guy that kind of replaced KJ Osborne and Irv Smith, had a big day against Seattle. Any of these three that you are highly considering or you do think can have a bigger kind of fantasy role moving forward?
Yeah, I think Dawson Knox is the one for me out of those three that's the top ad, and that's because he doesn't compete with many with other people at the tight end position in that offense right now, because he's just getting it done in back-to-back games. He's tight end 5 on the year after back-to-back scores. We just talked about how if we want to invest in Emmanuel Sanders or this Buffalo offense, then we should be wanting to invest in a guy like Dawson Knox, especially if we're frustrated at the tight end position. So that would be something I'd be looking at here. Maybe you picked up Robert Tonyan, and you didn't realize that the Packers are probably going to regress in the passing game this year, and he is going to regress personally because of the touchdowns. Then maybe go pick up a guy like Dawson Knox because you trust that offense a little bit more to get Knox involved, and he's been on the field quite a bit. So, yeah, I'd pick him up. Quick point on Dalton Schultz here, Johnny.
Yeah,
I would love to just invest in Dalton Schultz. We talked about him last night on the stream. But again, Blake Jarwin exists in this offense. And so we have a situation where he could eat into that value, and it could be a Jarwin game, then it could be a Schultz game, or it could be a backs game where they're moved. The running backs are used more in the pass catching. So that's where I'm at with the tight end position. Look, we know it's a dumpster fire. It is every single year. I think these two are worth speculative ads. And then don't forget about Tyler Conklin here. Had a great game against the Seahawks. Obviously, we knew this was a high over-under, but we have seen Kirk Cousins use the tight end position before. If he gets back to that, if KJ Osborne takes a back seat after that, very weird, fluky production at the beginning of the year, then you could see a situation where Conklin could, give us the Irv Smith type breakout we were calling for preseason.
Schultz, man, coming up big for your boy last night, and some lineups. All right, quickly jumping over here on this quarterback, the two quarterback streamers we got Sam Darnold on this list. Let's go. A lot of people hating on Sam Darnold. We told you don't give up hope. There is a lot to be hopeful for when you're getting a player from Adam Gase. And it happens again and again and again and again, just similarly but on the opposite for the good of Josh Gordon. It happens for the good of these other players coming from the Adam Gase tree. Sam Darnold, how much you trust him? Taylor Heinicke. I always struggle now with his last name. Taylor Heinicke, which one do you like more? Is it just this week or potentially a longer-term stream here?
It could be a longer-term stream. He does have Philly, though, after Dallas, and Minnesota, though, after that. If you look at what Sam Darnold has brought to the table, look, a couple quarterbacks have 3 rushing touchdowns on the year. One of them, Kyler Murray. The other one, Sam Darnold, with 3 rushing touchdowns this year so far. He got 2 of them last week. He's had over 300 yards in back-to-back games. Over 34 passing attempts in all 3 games. You love to see that for volume sake. And 23 points, 18 points, and then 18 points in 4-point touchdown leagues. He is a streamable candidate. He's on the streamable radar, and I think against Dallas, this should be a high-scoring contest. A lot of people discrediting Carolina, but they've been a lot better than what we thought. So I actually think he's good there.
I do want to say really quick, Freak Stomper 49er says Tommy Tremble is going to eat guys. Stash him while you can. I do like this as a sneaky pickup, tight end for Carolina. They just traded Dan Arnold to Jacksonville, and which is kind of a surprise. I actually didn't believe this trade actually went through when I saw it. I was like, this has to be a fake thing because they were using Dan Arnold pretty well. We know how much Sam Darnold also likes to use the tight end position. So I'm not saying go out and grab him right now. It is an interesting stash though to keep monitored.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a deep league and you're hurting for tight end, go for it. But I will just say this. I mean, Dan Arnold, they traded him away. Was only playing 37% of snaps over the last couple of weeks. Tremble only got in for 26% of snaps. And you like what he did in that game. He got in for a rushing touchdown, if I'm not mistaken here. And so, that's kind of fun. But again, what we want is our tight ends to be on the field a lot and running a lot of routes. And these guys historically in this young offense over the last couple of years has not used tight end. So he is, right here, ML's speaking my language right here. He says, my big concern on Tremble is he's a run blocking specialist, only caught something like 35 balls his senior year. Again, that's what we're talking about. And this offense doesn't historically use the tight end position as much. And why would you when you have guys like DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and now Terrace Marshall? You're going to I will say that maybe with the, if CMC is going to take a step back out of the offense and they don't trust Chuba enough, they will go to Tremble a little bit more. But that's just a lot of speculation for me to go add over the 3 guys that I mentioned already.
Yeah, I agree. Mr. Miyagi saying a stream that will live in infamy. We were talking about last night when we had a bunch of people jump on. Gus saying, I'm getting so many trades for Swift. Of course you are, because everyone wants him, because everyone realized how much they made a mistake and how good he is. So kudos. Don't trade him away, though. All right. Rob asking, number 1 waiver wire priority. At running back, I have Kamara, Chris Carson, James Robinson, and Kareem Hunt. Only dependable wide receivers are Jamar Chase and Ridley. Is it worth picking up Renfrow or Patrick PPR? He's got the number 1.
Yeah, I would go after Patrick. Absolutely, I think it is. I will say that if I talked about picking up Chuba as a blocking move here, but I would actually go and get Patrick in your situation. If you're looking at Chase and Ridley only right now as your guys that you can depend on, go get Patrick as that third option in your offense because you have the running backs a little bit locked up here. I do think Tim Patrick worth the waiver. If especially because he's a little thin at wide receiver, but I almost like, depending on if your league is, a team that or a league that trades more often, I almost like picking up Chuba. You don't need him. Trying to
try to trade him. Yeah. Pair him with Ridley, and you can majorly upgrade that wide receiver.
You can do here is just trade out of the number 1 priority,
that's also another one.
Maybe just sell the whole mystery box of number 1 and not even tell them who you'd be going after, because maybe they are not going to even want Tim Patrick as bad as you do. And maybe you'll be able to trade out to 3rd or 4th priority, still get Patrick and get the value that you would get there. So I don't mind that, but I think if you just want to secure your guy, go and get Patrick. I think that's a good add for your wide receiving core.
All right, we got Jacoby Freak Stomper 49. Jacoby is an upgrade over Tua, so everyone should be better in Miami. We'll see about. I don't know.
Freak Stomper coming for Tua's head there, man.
Yeah,
I mean, it's fair. We just have not seen anything out of Tua just yet to get us excited. Hopefully, he can get back healthy and get going here.
Mr. Miyagi say McCaffrey not going on IR worries me to spend a truckload of fob to get Chuba, and that's what's kind of nice is you don't necessarily have to spend a truckload in order to get him because of that very thing. We talked about dropping.
Drew Markham here says, "Fix my team, please. I'm 0-3 in a 10-point half point PPR. Starting lineup is Lamar, Mixon, Najee, DK, CD, Hawkinson, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin. Streaming defense bench is Hollywood, Corey Davis, Tyson Sermon, Gainwell. I would be interested in getting out of Corey Davis and Tyson Williams, maybe even Sermon, but I'd hold on to Sermon because you want to invest in that offense a little bit and going and picking up some of the guys we mentioned here. Again, the article will be up on the website, so you can look at that as well within the next couple hours. But initially, I think those are two guys you could get rid of to try and go and get more bolster. But other than that, this lineup's not bad.
And better days probably ahead. We got to remember it is a long season, so that is a good team that you should be able to do some things with moving forward. Christopher Chavez asking, should we hold Gibson or trade him high? Question mark.
I mean, you're definitely holding on to Gibson here. He is still being used quite heavily in the offense. I mean, last week got 13 touches there. He took one of those for 73 yards and a touchdown. Obviously was his worst day running the football, but he played a Buffalo defense that's really, really stingy against the run. You've got Atlanta, Kansas City, and Green Bay in 3 of his next 4. So better days ahead here. That's a great schedule to kind of open up here for Gibson.
And we also talked about that stretch.
Selling him high wouldn't work right now. He's not as high a value because he's had the rough start, so you wouldn't get the value on him.
I would, and we keep saying this, I would go out and try to acquire him right now. It might be a little bit difficult after him having a solid game yesterday, but I would go and try to trade for him now because that schedule wide open. He is going to be one of those top running backs over the next few weeks that people are going to be wanting to have.
Yeah, I love this question. What are your thoughts about JT? Every time we have a little bit of a Nyheim Hines game, the panic sets in for Jonathan Taylor. Guys, Jonathan Taylor had 6.4 yards per carry in this game. He ran 10 times for 64 yards. This was more of a play calling issue, more of a game where they needed to come back in. They did not use him a lot in the passing game. In this one, they will get he's going to be fine. He's going to be right on the RB2 kind of borderline from week to week because of the state of the offense. If Wentz can regain some health, that'll obviously go up. But Miami, Baltimore, and Houston over the next few games, those are attackable defenses there, especially on the ground. So I would actually be okay with holding on to JT.
Yeah, he's another one I'm going after and trying to target. He's getting a lot of those goal line works. He just hasn't really scored a whole lot of touchdowns this year. So people just worried about him. I would go out and try to get him.
Gus asking us, hey, my cousin is trading CEH for Gordon. I think I can offer him a better trade. Offer him Hines. What do you think?
I'm wondering if this is
PPR. Yeah, I mean, if it's
this
PPR,
Melvin, is this Melvin Gordon too, or is this Josh Gordon?
Well, I think it's Melvin Gordon, but
it's got to be Melvin, right?
Yeah, I would not trade CEH away for Melvin Gordon. No, that would not be something I would do. As low as CEH's floor can be, we know that his upside is high in any given week in that offense.
Yeah, I don't know if offering Hines is a better. I mean, I think you could throw Hines in as like a piece, but I think you'd probably have to pair someone with Hines in order for CEH in order to like improve the thought process there for Gordon. But I don't like that trade either.
Roach Cheetah says hello over on Twitch. We love our Twitch family growing over there. New stream this year. So what's going on, brother? All right. So fantasy football stats guy. Running backs are currently Eckler, Tyson, Mitchell, Sermon, Drake, Pollard, how much fob would you put on Chuba? And he says, I don't have to drop anyone either. Well, that's great. You've got a few more projects you can invest in here. I think anywhere between 20 and 35% of your fob is a good amount of fob to be spending on a guy like Chuba. I would go and take a look at, I mean, it's really going to depend on you, because some leagues are going to actually stay within the right boundaries on fob. And then if you look at our league of record, we start blowing fob really early. We have some very, just not very good people with their money. And I'm one of
not great managers of the fob.
Yeah.
But I think if you go out and you get him, I'm trying to pair him with another one of your running backs and then try to upgrade another position, either wide receiver or your tight end or something, because you do have a good amount of depth there at the running back, but I'm not sure you're going to need that amount, right? So I would try to potentially pair a couple of those up and get a much upgraded position there.
So ML says, I don't think we'll be comfortable actually starting a Dallas tight end all year, unfortunately, for the reasons you mentioned. Absolutely.
Yep.
And then fantasy football stats guy Fantasy football stats guy trying to correct us on Heinicke. It's not Heinicke. It is Heinicke. If you go look at NBC Sports Edge, put an article out talking about his friends and the way they still pronounce it wrong. But it is Heinicke. So we'll get that article out, and you check that out. Colts putting Marlon Mack on the trading block here.
Hey, we'll see. Hey, 49ers will probably pick him up.
Yeah, right.
That'll be interesting to see if anyone trades for him.
Killjoy coming in here says, hey guys, it's been a while. Appreciate you, Killjoy. Welcome back in. Rob Navarro saying, thanks guys. You got it, man. Mr. Miyagi says, I like that package, Ridley and Hub to upgrade. Oh, he must be talking about
yeah, we were talking about that when he had mentioned that or there was somebody who had mentioned they had Ridley and who's there? They had like two wide receivers, and then they had a bunch of running backs, and they were asking, should we go after Tim Patrick or
Melvin Gordon and Gaskin value? Who can I realistically get for an RB2 option? I have Cook as my RB1. So really what you're looking to do is pair Melvin Gordon and Gaskin to try and get you back your perfect RB2. Johnny, do you have any ideas on, slow starts? I mean, if you can get the Gibson owner to bite on that, or even Taylor to bite on that, I don't know why they would. But if you could get something like that, let me take a look at some of the guys in that range.
I do think, if you could do something like that and get an upgrade, then I would. I do think better days are ahead for Gaskin. They have a opening up in their schedule. It's not as difficult. Gaskin
maybe a
is
guy,
the best running back in that backup.
I think maybe like a guy like Chris Carson.
Yeah, that's a perfect
invest
one.
in. Like there's Chase Edmonds, even Dave Montgomery, who's kind of having a slow start. I think both of all those guys would be guys I would go after, Michael, if you could get that done.
All right.
Mr. Miyagi saying Ridley is dependable is becoming a stretch. Yeah.
The struggle is real.
Brooks 7000 saying, should I pick up Josh Gordon off the waiver wire? I have a free spot. Should I start Mark Andrews or Rob Gronkowski as your tight end? We'll get back to you on the tight end start. It's a little early in the week, but remember, if you're subscribed to the channel, you'll catch all of our breakdowns. Our matchup breakdowns come out on the Patreon, and also that's the full video. They come out on all the Spotify and Apple Podcast platforms. I do think Josh Gordon is worth a pickup, depending on what your roster construction is. Like we talked about, put some of the guys ahead of him. Tim Patrick, Emmanuel Sanders, and AJ Green would be guys I go pick up before him.
This could be true. This could be just Brady and Gronk show. Well, watch Gronk's health, though. He didn't look right at the end of that game, so that's why there's some hesitancy on the Gronk part. So just we'll monitor that throughout the week. But yeah, I do expect a big Gronk and Brady day on Sunday, returning to their old stomping grounds.
Andre Silva, is worth trading CEH and Woods for Mixon? Absolutely. If you get this deal done, you go do it immediately. I think you'd be getting out on guys whose value becomes much more volatile for a guy in Mixon who's getting great work here. Thomas Medina says, Que Paso Whispers, what's going on? Cheers for Panama International. Thank you, Thomas. Welcome in. Thanks for joining Mr. Whisper Nation here. Thoughts on trading Ayuk for Latavius? I get the running back. I would stick with Ayuk unless you are absolutely desperate. Like if you have no running backs, maybe you can still see it. But Ayuk is the better player in this deal, and he's starting to warm up in the offense finally.
Yep.
So,
all right. Christopher
says, need a tight end PPR. Should I offer Madison and Claypool to the Dalvin Cook owner for Noah Fant? I guess you could consider this, but I think there's I would continue to stream the tight end position. I don't like advertising giving up, your running back or any kind of other depth for a guy, and who knows, could the Cook injury linger? And then you've got a situation where Madison is really getting it done for you. So that's kind of where I would be at with that.
I agree.
Opinions on getting 2 first-round picks and Robert Woods for Waddle. I received the picks and Woods. 2 first-rounders, yeah.
Yeah, I would do this.
Get that done, yeah.
I do like a Waddle. I do think better days are ahead for Robert Woods. I'm not I do think that he's eventually going to have his time. But that connection right now with Kupp is just undeniable. But yeah, I like that. I like that trade.
Yeah, Mr. Miyagi giving a pro tip here. You should not have any free spots. Pick up some lotto tickets, a.k.a. handcuffs. And Johnny has talked about this before, especially on the Sunday night, Monday night games. Go and find that handcuff or a backup player before the game starts. Put him on your roster with that free spot. And then if he doesn't do anything or nobody gets hurt, then you've got a situation where you're going to drop that player. But that's 100%. What I would do there. Thomas Medina says, "Sweet, gracias. You're welcome."
Hey, you're welcome.
Or it's probably Tomas.
But it probably is Tomas.
Yeah, and then Christopher Chavez says, "Thanks a lot, fellas. You got it." Well, we want to thank you all for hopping in here and giving us a like, giving us a subscribe on the channel. Make sure you go check the website, thefantasywhisperers.com. We'll get that link in the description in the next couple hours when the article comes out.
That's it. That's how we made it through this waiver wire show. Again, appreciate you all for joining us. If you have any more questions, you can find us on Twitter. You find Big Travie TFW on his Twitter, or I should just say, you can find Big Travie on Twitter. His Twitter is at Big Travie TFW. You can find me on Twitter at Johnny_GameTime. Right under there. I got to get used to doing that. If you have any more questions, let us know. Also join the Discord. And we love to answer. Whisper Nation loves joining the community and talking fantasy football. Until tomorrow, when we break down the Thursday night matchup, that is it for us over here at the Fantasy Whisperers. You guys have a wonderful day and great luck or good luck. I don't know if you can say great luck on your waiver wires this week. Big Travie, you have any last words before we close out?
No, let's go get these waivers. Let's get it done. Build that roster up.
All right, Whisper Nation. For Big Travie, I'm Johnny Game Time Hicks. We're the Fantasy Whisperers. We're out. Peace.
Peace.
Right here.
Look at you go. You made it to the end of another one of our videos. Hey, if you still have some questions, I totally understand. Or you just want to join an awesome fantasy football community, head on over to our Discord chat. Link is in the description below. And if you're still not sold on us, check out one of these videos.